Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here. I'm today covering Made in Abyss Season 2, Episode 10 that aired just this last night on Saturday night on Toonami. Now, I'm going to say things I liked about this episode, then some of the things I didn't like about this episode, and then tie it up with a big old Super Orange Cat bow at the end. So, first things first, I'm going to cover some of the amazing moments in this episode. First, just the whole general plot revolving around the past between Faputa and Reg, which I thought was really well done. Like, for example, you have this whole reveal that, well, we kind of had hints that Faputa was in love with Reg, and we got more confirmation of that in this episode. And I really just like the dynamic between them, especially when they showed, like, them in the past. Like, for example, you had Faputa telling Reg about her whole plan, about the whole, put her mother out of her misery by killing everyone inside it. Shouldn't say that we're in the first 90 seconds of a YouTube video, but, I'm just doing this for the lulz. And you have this whole thing where Reg promised her, like, when I'm done with my whole mission at the surface, I'll come down and we'll be together forever. And that whole thing also gave us some clues to Reg's past. Like, you had him mention having a mentor, and the mentor being someone who said, oh, it's nice to just be nice to people and keep up appearances, and also said, oh, I'll have to go for a mission up at the surface. And this helps kind of confirm a couple theories I've had and a lot of people have had about what Reg's point is. The mentor is strongly implied, in season 1, they strongly imply that this person who's a mentor is probably Liza. And the mission, like a lot of people theorize, was for Reg to come get Riko and then take her down to the bottom. Or plausibly just go up and just generally protect Riko in Orth. That's kind of left up for debate at this point. And it's interesting that he would still be like, look, after this, even though he's mentally fully set on Riko, was like, but I'll still come back for you. And how Faputa reacted. Faputa, we can easily surmise as some type of monster whose whole goal is revenge. But at the same time, a lot like Iramui, her own mother, she a lot kind of has the mentality of being a very young girl. Because if you pay attention to Faputa's behavior in this flashback, it's a lot like a playful 5-year-old. Like how she plays with Reg, how she like lays around, jumps around. Maybe not so much going for Reg's junk multiple times, but at the same time, how she acts and how she's so over the moon when Reg promised that he would be with her forever is a lot just to remind you that Faputa, outside of this revenge plot, really just wants to be herself, wants to be her, have her own life, but she can't until she avenges her mother, which I thought was an interesting dynamic to add to her character, and something this episode did a good job of furthering. And another thing I really liked was just not as much the animation, but the whole fight sequence, especially when Faputa was just going absolutely ham on all the villagers. Like, all the ways in which she fought and killed them, I thought was just amazing. Creative, and taking advantage of her small size and her absolute strength, too. And alongside of that, the whole, like, part where Reg has just been tortured more than any... In a show where almost everyone on screen has been tortured in some way, Reg finds all these weird ways to get tortured. I can go into detail about Bondrewd's palace, which if you watched On the Deep Soul, you would know exactly what happened to him in there. And you have this episode where Faputa basically fists him orally all the way to the stomach and starts punching him from the inside, which was, I'll say, pretty damn creative right there. And that's something this show is very creative with these ideas, much like the whole children in suitcases thing in Dawn of the Deep Soul. And it really finds a way to get to you. But and also alongside that, another thing I really loved about this episode was what we got at the with all this Reg and Faputa stuff. It's so easy to forget we had another heartfelt goodbye from Nanachi to Mitty at the start of this episode, because of the whole the filament around the village being destroyed because of the whole thing is collapsing in. Mitty's not going to survive. And Bellop's like, I'll give you another chance to say goodbye to Mitty. Since he sensed that, well, he knew Mitty was important to him because he offered his own life for Mitty's. And they'll reveal that, oh, Belov never actually killed Nanachi. He just simply was so unbelievably touched by Nanachi immediately offering his own life for Mitty that he decided that, oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed you my memories so you'll know about the whole what all of this is, and so you can effectively carry on for me. Because he had this whole theme last episode when Riko was talking to Wazukayan of all these people are people that would rather travel lower, but they simply can't anymore because they're stuck in Illbu. And you have also, so basically to carry on for him indirectly, and he was like, okay, I've waken you up, it's find your friends, I think I can tell they're still alive, and I expected this for a long time, and shit's hitting the fan. Basically, that's what Belov said in a nutshell. And Belov just becomes an interesting character. You had this character that came off like some type of like ominous menace, but over time you reveal he's actually he's someone that seeks to be good but is aware that he has a dark side to him. Like you had the whole thing back where he was horrified at the way in which he had to survive, and then him literally offering his life to Iramui, but instead of losing his life, he just gets turned into a giant snake monster, which is something I thought was interesting, and that's a character I actually want to see, because you have the whole Faputa, like, subconsciously knowing about what happened to her mother, and then you have this whole thing where, like, well, what does she think about Vuko, who's the one person who truly cared about Iramui? What about Belov, who's the one person that seemed truly, to any degree, outside of Vuko, repentant for what happened to Iramui? That's interesting to see, and from the description that the TV guide gives for next episode, it implies that we might get that interaction, which I'll be interested to see. And yeah, ultimately, very solid episode. And I could go deeper into detail. And if I make like a season, like a retro cap episode video, like after the season, I'll go into detail about specifically stuff like how Faputa is this season's equivalent of Ozen in terms of being a woman who had someone, like, was deeply connected to someone but slowly lost them indirectly because of Riko, and other stuff too, like deeper stuff about these character interactions and about especially Faputa, because she has soared this episode from being maybe my second or third favorite season 2 character to being my favorite character, especially at the whole ending where you could tell she's in tears because she can sense that Reg was 100% genuine talking to her about not remembering, but the fact that he truly did still kind of care about her and he would want to uphold this promise, but because the fact that he has to guard Riko, he can't just simply be with Faputa. He has to guard Riko all the way to the bottom. And like Faputa sensing this and knowing, trying and sensing things from Reg's side, fought through those tears and decided I have to fight on. And that's how that episode ended, which I thought was a great ending. And there's not much I would really write this episode down for other than really silly, petty stuff like Vuko barely does anything. She's literally just grabbed by Wazukai. And Wazukayan, all he did in this was like, oh man, we're gonna get destroyed in 30 minutes. I'm gonna use all my million tentacles and like create a makeshift roof so no one gets hit with the molten iron that's falling from the sky. Which normally happens to Six Lair, but they don't know, they don't sense this usually because the whole fact they're stuck in Illbu and they're safe there. And that's really a pet reason. Like, but outside of this, Reg and Faputa had amazing interaction this episode. I thought that was well written. Also, the whole Nanachi and Mitty, one more tear-felt goodbye, with Nanachi saying, I hope that if I get to the bottom, then I'll find some way to be with you forever. Which was really sad because, really, the bottom of the abyss has stopped being simply this, like, oh, physical goal of Riko must find her mother and she knows that she's probably there, to everyone who's looking for something they cannot quite have getting the sense they can find it there. Like this, like longing for stuff they can't have. Like Nanachi can't have Mitty because Mitty's dead, or Mitty got turned into a hollow and then Reg had to put her out of her misery. Or this whole Riko looking for her mother. This whole Reg my purpose is to protect you. And like, we can go more and more. And if I had to predict what happens after the season, I think Faputa ends up winning the main trio because it's set up in such a way that you can tell that despite Faputa still deciding to fight on, that Reg is starting to emotionally get through to her in a way. So we'll probably have an ending where, well, at this point, Iramui's going to get destroyed. Illbu's definitely going to be destroyed at this rate. And then, like, Faputa figures out, like, well, I can be with Reg forever if I just go with him on his mission. And I could see that, and I think that's where they're going to go. What do you guys think? If I had to rate this episode, I would give it a 9 out of 10. This was a very solid episode. What do you guys think? Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I am the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.